Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Old Biker Dude Show Home Edition, where we make recipes right here in the kitchen at home to share with you, and I hope you enjoy. This afternoon, we're going to be making my chili recipe. So, of course, this is going to be the low sodium version. You can adjust the ingredients a little bit, like with salt and things like that, to your taste. But this recipe, followed from A to Z, would essentially be a fairly low sodium. It's not no sodium, but it's just a low sodium recipe. So here we go. We're going to make chili old biker dude style. Okay, before we get started, I'm going to run through my ingredients for you. I've got about 2 pounds of ground round here. And there's about a ½ pound of regular market sausage. It's not the spicy kind. I've got 2 large red bell peppers. That may seem like a lot. It is. We just are kind of fond of red bell peppers around here. I've got a medium-sized onion cut up. I'm going to be using 2 quarts of unsalted beef stock. I've also got a can of reduced sodium kidney beans, the dark red ones. I've got a can of chili beans over here in mild chili sauce. And I'm going to have 2 cans of the diced tomatoes with green chilies in them, the Rotel. Nothing works better than Rotel, man. The fact is, even though they're not low sodium, they're really not terrible. It's 380 milligrams, and, there are the ones now are becoming popular, like some of the name brands are doing the unsalted and low sodium diced tomatoes. I probably should have used those today, but I'm going for the gusto a little bit. But anyway, this is my catch pot, and I'm going to use it, of course, to make my chili in. But I also use my little pan over here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of stir fry my red peppers and onions in garlic, so I can sort of give them a garlic roasted taste before I add them to the chili. And then one little adjustment I'm going to make is, instead of using 2 quarts of unsalted beef stock, because it's, beef broth and beef stock are a little bit different, in that stock uses the meat also when they extract the broth. Beef broth is just from bone. But because it's going to already be pretty strongly influenced, in addition to this, I'm going to use 2 cups of water, and then use these Herbox granulated beef bouillon packets. They're completely sodium free, and that's going to be in my mix this time. Now, of course, there's always the option of making your beans in advance right out of the bag. I do that a lot. Just basically prepare your kidney beans, like leave them soaking overnight, and then that way you can actually make them as a part of the recipe the next day. And I like to keep my water. I know a lot of people drain them, but I don't. I just, I keep the water. But anyway, since we're not using that in this recipe, we won't worry about it. So, in goes the beef and sausage. We'll let it get started there. And then over here in this other pan, I'm going to kind of stir fry my red bell peppers and onions until they're real soft. And this here's my lucky wooden spoon. I love to use this when I make soups and stews and chili and everything. For some reason or another, things just come out better when I use my old favorite wooden spoon. And just as my meat is starting to cook up, I like to go ahead and put in, my enhancements. Add a little pepper in there. I like to put turmeric in everything. If you watch the channel, you've probably seen that I put a nice little few shakes of turmeric in just about everything. I believe it's healthy and good for you. I'm also going to add in a pretty good little shake of minced onion. I'm not using a whole lot of onion in my chili today. Usually I'll use either a very large one or possibly even 2. But the truth is, I only had 1 medium one, so I'm going to use some minced onion today also. And also some onion powder, so I can kind of make up for that absence of the natural onion extract being in the chili juice as it cooks along. But that should balance it off. Now here at my house, we're about half and half in the house about liking spicy and mild. Today I'm going to go the mild route because there's some folks home today that prefer the mild route. Even though there are a couple of spicy eaters in here, they'll adjust theirs with hot sauce. Me being one of those. But the idea is on this recipe is that it's just going to be the mild version. Now, I've always believed that if you are going to spice it up a little bit, the time to do that is while you're browning your meat, because it gets down in, you know, the meat while it's not quite browned and is still extracting some of the natural oils from the beef muscle and things like that, is when the flavor of the spices actually work best soaking into the meat. That's why I put my other enhancements in just after I had spread my beef out and my beef and sausage. And then on the sausage thing, I always use just a little bit of sausage, usually about 1/4 of my total meat. And that's just to add that little bit of zest to the base of the chili. Now, as you can see, I've all but just about got my beef and stuff browned. I don't want to beat it up too much. I want to leave some of the pieces kind of chunky. So every now and then while people are eating it, they'll come across some in their bowl. I am going to go ahead and throw in about 3 bay leaves, and then I'm going to start adding other ingredients. I always love seeing the nice bright color of the vegetables when they first start to stir fry. How nice and orange those are. Because here soon, that was a big thick-walled red bell pepper too right there. I like for those juices to extract from the pepper into the base of the chili. And then a reminder, I don't use any salts, no garlic salt, no onion salt. I always use powders only. Powders, when cooked long enough with liquid, will get in that background and influence your base a lot better, in my opinion. Salts can tend to actually modify some of the other ingredients. I'm just not, and it's not so much for the healthy reasons. I just, you know, once you have trained your taste buds not to desire so much salt, you really start to, you know, taste the food and it more of the natural flavors. And I know this may seem a little funny, but instead of adding my chili powder to the catch pot, I'm actually going to put it on my vegetables, on my red bell pepper and onion, because I sort of want that to kind of get inside the body of these pieces of pepper before they extract their juices. Now, I don't know, you know, maybe it's just a thing for me, but I just have this idea that it makes the final product taste better. And now when my ground beef and sausage is actually browned, I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 quart of this unsalted beef stock, because I don't want my beef to overcook. I want all the rest of the flavor that comes out of that to go right into the liquid base. And then I'm going to add my 2 cans of diced tomatoes with little green chilies, Rotel. I know a lot of people don't add these until the very end, but I like for that tomato taste to kind of work slowly into the base of the chili. And I'll tell you why. You're going to notice that I've simmered my chili a lot longer than is necessary, but very slow. I try to find that point where it's barely simmering. I like to joke around, I call it bloop bloop mode. But because I cook it so slowly, I don't run the risk of scorching the tomatoes or, you know, over influencing the taste in any way. And I've always just felt comfortable with doing that. But as soon as my veggies get a little bit better cooked through, I'm not going to cook them until they're like super soft, but just kind of halfway in between, so when I add them to the base, I can still pull that liquid from the peppers and it'll incorporate into the base of my chili also. And now that adding my broth has basically cooled the browning beef down a little bit, There are a couple of other little enhancements I'm going to put in here. This is just some dried thyme. I'm going to add that in. A lot of times we'll get it out of the garden, but our thyme plant out there doesn't have a whole lot on it right now. And at times I'll grind up some rosemary and put it in. It just depends on, you know, what all's in the spice garden outside. Okay, I've got these kind of fried up pretty good here. I probably had them in there for about 10 or 12 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and put them on into the chili. So like I said, I didn't want to cook them too long over here because I want all that liquid from out of the peppers as they break down to be in the base of my chili. So far so good. And now I'm going to bring this to a boil and just kind of, not real rapidly, but a rather slow boil, and try to get all that liquid out of those red bell peppers and get it to incorporate into the base of my chili. Now I'm also adding some paprika, probably about a tablespoon. And, you know, that paprika is a nice mix with chili powder. I did add just a little bit more chili powder based on what I think it's going to take to come out with a nice color. My color is real important to me when I'm cooking chili. It's got to have that nice deep reddish brown look in there where I know my ingredients are kind of incorporating together right. But that color is kind of important. And then the chili sauce is going to influence it a little lighter when it goes, you know, the chili that the beans are in the cans. But you may note I did not add my 2 cups of water yet, and I'm not going to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this after it comes to a boil and simmer 45 minutes or so without lifting the top off. I don't want to let any of my steam escape. I'm a stickler about using a glass top. I like to be able to see through my, you know, and be able to see all the stuff I'm cooking. I've just always been that way. But I mentioned not letting any of the steam escape. Actually, after I simmer this for 45 minutes, I'm really going to turn the heat down so that it's not actually simmering when I take the top off. Because when I add my beans and other water and everything, I'm going to do that kind of quickly. I'm going to sort of like shocking pasta. I'm going to lift the top. I'm going to throw my cold water in there real quickly and pop the top back on so that a lot of steam doesn't escape from the chili, because I want to retain every bit of flavor inside that base as I possibly can. And that's a little trick I've always used to do that. Okay, it's been about 45 minutes. I actually took my chili off after about 35 minutes because I was pretty satisfied with how soft the peppers were getting and everything. And what I'm going to do now, I've had it sitting over here for about 10 minutes so that it wouldn't be as hot. It's sort of, see, I can almost touch the pot right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly open my top and slide in my cold water without letting, there we go. And what that's going to do is that's going to cool the whole thing. Have you ever heard the old adage that leftovers, or, you know, like when you have soups and stews, things taste better the second day? There's actually something to be said for that. Like, you'll notice if you leave soups that have like macaroni in them or rice or say like barley, that when you look at it the next day after it's been in the refrigerator for 24 hours, all those ingredients are sort of swelled up, like it looks like they've absorbed more liquid and gotten larger. That's actually, there's something to that. And that's why a lot of people have the opinion that a lot of soups and stews and things like that taste better the second time. So having said that, that's why I like to cool mine before I add the rest of my ingredients and go for my last simmer period, so that it does do that. A lot of these flavors will marry together by being cooler. And what I'm really looking to do there is have the juices that extracted from the peppers better incorporated into the liquid by having cooled everything down. Now I've added that water, and I'm just letting that sit in there for a moment to kind of cool things off while I yip-yap to you. But now I'm going to, remember the 2 little packs of Herbox sodium-free beef bouillon? I'm going to pop those in there real quick. See, there's hardly any steam even coming up. See, so I know that none of my steam is going to escape right now. And I have decided to go ahead and add a little bit of tomato paste. It's basically my base is a little thinner than I usually have. And I just threw that water in there just now. So I'm going to add a little tomato paste. And then if you'll notice, I'm also going to add my cans of beans. But you see the different color in the two cans? I'm going to add these without taking any of the liquid out. But on this other can, I'm going to take a little bit of the liquid out before I add the... See, that's what kind of settles at the top. And that way, I don't lose my color that I'm really looking for. And then once I get all this in there, I'm going to stir everything up and put it back on the stove and simmer it for another 45 minutes. And now there's one more thing I'm going to add in before it comes back to a boil, and that's a nice big hunking tablespoonful of minced garlic. And the reason I don't put my garlic in earlier on is because, again, I don't want to scorch it either by stir frying it with my beef or anything. I want the garlic to remain fresh so it influences the chili the way I want it to. Now this looks real thin right now, but I'm going to show you what I do with that here in just a little while after I simmer it for another 45 minutes. And be reminded that once I put this top back on, I am not going to take it off and stir the chili or anything like that. I know a lot of people like to stir it because, you know, they think it's going to incorporate the flavors better. It might do that, but for me, I don't want to let any of my steam escape. That's very important to me because I am just under the belief that it's better if you don't. Now, if you can see down through that glass top, I'm going to move around a little bit. I'm wearing this thing on my head. You'll see that I have a very slow simmer going on right now. That's exactly where I want it to be. I don't want it to become a hard boil or a rolling boil because, again, I don't want to scorch any of my ingredients or burn the base of my liquid and make it taste burnt. That's very, very important to me, and that's going to remain that way for the second simmering period. Now, you talk about picky. Here's another little thing I do. You see how it's barely simmering right now? On this side, though, is a little more than that side. I'm going to take and turn my pot around to the other side without lifting the top off of it. So now it's going to be a little bit more even heat distribution to the other side. Yes, I am picky about my soups and stews. And then, of course, you know, you can always, without taking your top off, you can take and just pick it up and slosh it around a little bit, which is almost like stirring it. And, you know, you'll notice the bubbling process has set back just a little after I did that. That's to, you know, kind of mix everything together without having to lift the top off of it. Okay, chili's been going a while. Still just a touch on the thin side, so what I did is right over here in this eye, I melted a half a stick of butter with about 1/8 of a cup of flour. And what I'm going to do with that, after I added a little bit of water to it so it would mix a little better, see how thick that is, I am going to allow a little of my steam to escape, which I am going to regret later, but had to be done. But I'm going to drop that the little thickening agent in here and mix it in real good and allow this to sit in here and reheat with the chili to thicken this up a bit. It doesn't matter that that clumped up because it's going to break up eventually, but now that I know that's in there, that will thicken my chili up a good bit as it continues to simmer through the rest of the simmer period. Okay, everybody, it's almost showtime, and because of that, I'm good with lifting my top right here at the end. Not a whole lot of steam escaping because, as you can see, it's simmering so slow that it is just barely simmering. And that's the way it's been doing for the last 30 minutes. But I'm going to add one more thing real quick. I love these brand of tomatoes, the Fermanos, and the reason why is because if you look at the back of the can, even though it doesn't, there we go, 140 milligrams sodium per serving. Even though it's not identified as a low sodium product, this particular brand, if you happen to have these in your store, they're in a can with a non-BPA liner. I've just always loved these. But what I've done is I've drained all the liquid out because I don't want to add any more looseness to the base of my chili. But I am going to add this can of petite diced tomatoes right here at the end. And the reason I wait until the very end to do it is because it just adds a little bit more richer tomato taste, and you get chunks of it in the bowls. But there we go right there, folks. That is looking like it's going to be the final product. This is my homemade chili. Low sodium version, old biker dude style. Okay, everybody, that just about wraps up another episode of the Old Biker Dude Show Home Edition. I hope you enjoyed following along as I was making chili this afternoon. The only thing that will happen now is, since you might see it's only about 3:45, is this is going to sit here for about 2.5 hours and cool down all the way to, you know, a relatively lukewarm condition. And that's going to allow, like I was talking about earlier, all the ingredients to marry up a little better. And then when we serve it here at dinner, around 6 or 6:30, it'll have that little bit more thick, more, you know, flavor of, you know, sort of conglomerated together type thing. But I sure appreciate it. And I hope you would like and subscribe if you would, and ring the notification bell so you become aware when we've got videos coming out. Being wintertime, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of motorcycle content over the next month or two because it's, you know, the winter months. But I'm going to try to fill that time with these home recipes and things like that. So come back and visit with us. And again, I appreciate you visiting with me today to watch the video. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.